Welcome everyone to Your Little Castle Show. There are many times in our life where I feel like there's an effort we must make to kind of categorize things. Like, where does this fall into my life? How should I evaluate this? Mike, our guest here today, Mike, I'm going to practice your name one time. Galbally.
Galbally.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike Galbally.
I'll say it right every time after this. I'll try. I might Galbally. And we did practice. I still mess it up, but that's okay.
It's okay.
We're even going to continue rolling here anyway. But Mike is one of those people, I would say, where you never know who's in the room. He's not one of the guys that's like, hey, everybody. He's like kind of subtle and professional. And then you start to realize you're a mogul, man. I mean, I hate to say it like that.
I mean, thank you for that.
Is that too much? I mean, but I mean, literally, if you look at Mike's history with regard to what he has done in our little community here, it's pretty impressive what he's done in our little city of St. Louis, much less the Midwest region, and that, for that matter, across the country. When you put yourself up against people who do the same thing you do nationally, I'd say you're. I wouldn't even say the number we said before, but he's in the top, very high percentage of the people in the world that do what you do.
We help a lot of buyers and sellers,
and so that's just neat to have somebody like you on our set today, because it is amazing who it is you don't realize is in studio with you and talking, and then you go, wow. So if you're going to listen to anything anybody says today with regard to real estate, Mike is your expert here, and he will help you to get that information out. But Mike is a guru. So with that, I'm going to leave up what we've got on the screen behind us here. Shout out to our sponsors, and we want to give them a shout out because they do a lot to help make all of this happen, obviously. And so Carroll House Furniture, because you like nice things we come up with this one recently, Your Little Castle, right?
Oh, I love it.
And we kind of stole that from the perspective that you like nice things. We all like nice things, but in Your Little Castle, I took the your from like give them ownership, make it their possession, right?
Who doesn't love their little castle?
And so it's great to have Brooke and Amy and Carroll House as sponsors on the show. We just really appreciate having all of what they bring to what we do here and them as a sponsor. So with that also, then we do talk about, and this is directly tied into what we're doing here, USA Mortgage, the Flowers team, and you can see on the screen behind me, there it is, Steve Flowers, Emily Flowers, powered by the Flowers team. That's what we do here. And then I always then take it, it's my honor here, everybody, to put up on the screen behind me, this is Mike's website. And so when you get into showing off what people do, websites are the key to putting what you do out there. And look at this on the screen there. It is Finest Homes Network, serving St. Louis and St. Charles County, finesthomesnetwork.com.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Carter.
Pretty cool.
And as you said, we put out what we do, and it's pretty short and sweet. What are your real estate goals? So that's what's important to us, is what's important to you, and we're here to help your goals and make them a reality.
Well, Mike, with that, I turn it over to you, man. I tried to do a little bit of an intro there because you've got a lot I could talk about with regard to what you've done in this industry, but I'm going to scroll down a little bit there so people can get a look at a little more of what you've got on your website. But take a look at that. Why did you decide to get into the real estate world?
That's a great question. So I got into real estate in 2009. I actually worked for a national grocer, brought me out to the area, and after a while I just got tired of that corporate lifestyle, and I had an interest in housing, and I did not have a good experience my first home purchase. I actually built a home with a builder. Turned out I didn't really know what I was doing because I was a first-time home buyer, and I came to the builder unrepresented. I thought the lady that was working there worked for me too, but the reality was, really her allegiance was to the builder, and when things did not go right, basically she was on the builder's side. Not that she was a bad lady, she was actually a very nice lady, but it just, I didn't have anybody ultimately looking out for my best interest, and I learned that was really important, and so I want to make a difference in this industry.
So a lot of people get into real estate because they're like, I can make a lot of money. Not really the case. You felt like, man, I got to do this thing the right way because I didn't feel like things necessarily were what you wanted them to be if somebody did.
Yeah, no, I mean, there definitely was a financial benefit to doing a good job in the business, but ultimately it came down to we really wanted to take care of our clients because most of our business does come from our past clients and referrals, and we want to keep doing a great job for them because that keeps them happy and coming back and allows us to be a part of their life.
So when you talk about the success that you've had, and believe me, Mike has had some incredible success. What do you think it is that led you here, that got you to this? A little bit about the path.
Yeah,
'Cause you got started relatively young too. A lot of people.
I
don't get
did.
real estate
I did.
until they're-
I got started in my late 20s, and ultimately, I mean, I just wanted something that I would have a little more flexibility. But the reality was, as you start building a business and clientele and working with buyers and sellers, you were always working. And so flexibility was the first thing that came to mind, but then it really was the last thing. It became more of you controlled your own schedule, but you still worked a lot.
Right, and the money is there, but it's also for a really good cause, because from the perspective that people need. I mean, not like we're doing charity work, but people have to have a place to live, right?
They do.
If you don't have a place to live, life is kind of difficult in this country.
Yeah, and honestly, in the last couple of years, housing prices has gone up quite a bit, especially in desirable areas, and so it is a little bit tougher. So we always want to do the best job possible, and we want people to get a home that's really going to make a difference in their life, because they are paying a little bit more now overall than they were in the past.
Well, like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on here. We'll talk a little bit more about some of your expertise. You can see I'm going to put up briefly here, if you look on the walls, we've got multiple TV walls in the studio now. Most people have seen the show for a while, and we added the second wall. It was our portable one. We're not taking it anywhere. Let's use it in the studio. But really some great information. If somebody really wants to get into where they do want to get to find a house, you've got the listings all there and well documented, well detailed, so that when it comes down to it, the information is readily available. Something you had on your website here that I thought was kind of neat, that we showed in our pregame prep, we call it, but let me click forward here. This is the market snapshot, and talk a little bit about this as I put it up on the screen here. And,
yeah, this is a cool tool. So you want to keep in touch with what your neighborhood, your area, your zip code, your county is doing. You can sign up on our website for a market snapshot, and you'll get the up-to-date list of all the listings that come to the market, sell, and go pending, and keep you in the loop. At the same time, if you ever need any help, we're just a click or a phone call away to help you out.
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, that's very good, important information. I'm going to put it on the screen again here. We're going to switch over here back to your website. I mean, if people they want to search for homes, click right here in this button right in the middle of the screen, and they've got at their fingertips most all the listings. What region do you? Is this for everything?
Yeah, well, we cover through,
like
our area is 53 counties surrounding St. Louis, all in Missouri. We have agents that we work with in Illinois, but our team doesn't actually service Illinois, but throughout the St. Louis metro area. So you could search anything within our territory and the surrounding area. But we want to make it nice and easy so that you can just come to our site and get what you want, right? You want to search for homes, are right there. You want to sell your home, you can get a quick evaluation, or you can get in touch with us and I can give you a detailed evaluation to exactly what it's going to sell for.
Okay. And I can't overemphasize this enough, but Mike and I, we both are kind of these. You call yourself maybe a bit of a brainiac. You can't sleep.
I like to self-educate.
Right. Yeah. Be on the ball. Learn a little bit more than the average person may be really willing to listen to. But at least you have that knowledge in your brain. It sounds like you're that type. As I've gotten to know you and seen some of the success that you've had, I'm like, this guy really knows his stuff, and that's because well informed. Like I think you said earlier, the interwebs are available to everybody, and the information's out there. You
could literally get a better college degree just by watching YouTube videos than you probably can get into in a university. So this is just, you can learn anything you want on the internet, and I didn't have that when I was a kid. It's just started coming out, so it's been pretty awesome. Yeah. So with that, years of experience, we talked about this a little. Tell everybody how long. What's your years of experience? Say I started in, and so this. Yeah. So I purchased my first home in 2005, but then I got licensed in 2009, and so I've been doing it for this will be our 14th year now, and so that's allowed me to help. We're almost about 1,500 clients served so far, and that's been growing due to our referrals from our past clients. The biggest thing I would say is that, we have that experience. And so when you're looking for somebody to help you with this process, I mean, the average person only moves, on the high side 5 to 6 times, from a house to a house. So in their life. In their life. And so we've helped, 1,500 people. And so we've had 1,500 experiences. Some of them obviously go extremely smoothly, most of them, in fact. But some of them, we got some hurdles. And there is not a thing that happens in a real estate transaction that I have not seen. So anything that comes up, that I got your back, and that's my job, is to look out for you.
I wanted to make sure everybody heard that, and I wanted you guys to see my expression. Say that again. How many houses, Mike?
We're right at about 1,500.
15, not 15.
Over the course of
not
my career.
150. 1,500. I started doing the math. I'm like, you're doing like 100 and something houses a year.
Yeah. So we
And
had
that's
our
your
best
team,
year.
and you run the team.
Yeah, we had our best year in 2021. Market was crazy. We helped, I think it was 229 families. Last year we helped close to 200. And this year our goal is to help 250 people. We feel like the market is very strong. We feel like buyers don't have to fight so much for the properties that they used to have to fight for in the last couple of years. Interest rates are a little bit higher, but they're still lower than when I bought a house. They're still lower than when your family bought a house in the 90s and 80s. So at this point in time, I mean, there's no reason why you should just keep paying your landlord. You invest in a house. And honestly, me personally, one of the things that I enjoy is helping clients build wealth through real estate. Most of my wealth has been built through real estate, and I want other people to build wealth in the same way.
It took me a long time to really figure out the fact that why is real estate so lucrative? And it boils down to what we were talking about earlier. It's kind of everybody likes to have residual money. They can come on a monthly basis, but people always have to have a place to live. People don't always have to have, a tennis racket.
Right.
You go to golf clubs. There's things that they don't have to have, but people will sell those, and the golf companies make money and all that. But you have to have a place to live, and that just seems like and as the population continues to grow and more people that are on this planet that need housing, I mean, that's always going to be a hot market. And mostly, which I think you really get to help people with, is giving them a nice place that they can afford. It fits all the amenities and everything they need. I know a little bit about this as a licensed loan officer. Obviously, you've got to find the right demographic area that they want, with the school districts that they want, and the amenities that they need. If they have special needs, if they have to be close to the firehouse, for emergency purposes or whatever. And is that kind of some of the stuff you specialize? I'm assuming as a data guy, that's right up your alley. I know Mike's going to talk about that.
So yeah, when we meet with clients, I mean, we want to know where they're going to move to. So whether I'm meeting with somebody that's buying a house for their first time, or they're going to sell a house to buy their next house, the first conversation we have is where you're going to go. I mean, people want to know where their next home is. I mean, that we talk about that before we ever talk about how much we can get for their house, because we want to know where they're going to be going, so that we can get them to their dream. And for me, investing in real estate was another avenue to help people. So I have multiple rental properties, and everybody that I've ever rented a house or condo, a townhome to, that I personally owned, has been great people. And for whatever reason, it either wasn't the right time for them to purchase a house, or honestly, they just didn't have the means, credit, or income, but they made sense to rent the property too. And these are great people that care about the property and help me by taking care of it. And here's the thing: is there is a financial benefit to me, because I leverage other people's money. So
right,
you can go
get a loan
a bunch of different ways with this. Dave Ramsey will teach that you take the shortest loan amortization time possible and pay it off as quickly as possible. But in my opinion, if you can borrow somebody else's money, turn that around, and collect more for it every month, why wouldn't you do that and then just repeat?
Well, I've got to jump in here a little bit to say, ladies and gentlemen, this brings to a close this segment, but we're going to continue talking. And if you want to watch the full interview, because we're going to go on for as long as I feel necessary, because this guy's brain is filled with tons of knowledge. Take a look, if you will. I'm going to put up on the TV wall one more thing before we switch over to the extended version here. This is the reviews Mike has for his team. 89 reviews of 5.0. And then if you get over here to Zillow, does a similar thing. And look there, 74 more reviews, 4.9. So that's just a little sample of what he's done. And when you get into looking for the people who do the best work, it's nice to have a guy like Mike that you can talk to that will help you, and he and his team can help with that. So with that, we're going to carry on right into the second 2/3 of our interview here, because I really want to continue. So you can watch the whole thing, this extended interview, on YouTube or our Facebook. A lot of times the whole video's out there. They chop it up for us a little bit, or Instagram and TikTok. Those are all the big networks. We have some of our videos have been watched 195,000 times. We've got a little bit of a following out there, and we really want to help spread the word for the good leaders in our community, like Mike. They're doing a great job. So with that, let me jump into, this is the important part. If you haven't cut out just yet, market trends we're going to talk about now, everybody. So if you're getting ready to leave, or this is the end of the show for this segment that's going to air on ABC, go check out the rest of this interview, because we're going to talk right now about market trends, and that's really important with regard to the whole economy and everything's going on, the time of year. So with that, Mike, I'll turn over to you. What is it that's so important about our market trends when you're looking at buying a house?
So the last couple of years, market went pretty crazy after COVID. Basically, interest rates, because the government was trying to spur the economy. When COVID first hit, they dropped the interest rate to 0. And that's the rate that basically banks borrow money against. So it didn't drop your actual mortgage rate to 0, but it borrowed the rate that banks will borrow money against it. And so as we've seen in the news, they've been raising that rate to try to slow the economy and slow inflation. So there was a slowdown at the end of last year, and that did cause a lot of people to pause. Mortgage rates did go up quite a bit higher than they had been previously, somewhat double what it was. Now you can attest to it, having a connection to people in the mortgage industry, that rates are coming back down. They're making more sense, and because there's not such a buying frenzy that there was, you don't have to compete as much. We're not seeing in our area necessarily the price of properties go down. Now, there will be certain categories where prices will go down. We'll talk about that. But overall, the market is staying pretty solid. So if it's a nice house, move-in ready, that is going to have some people interested in it, you're definitely going to want to jump on those right away.
Okay. So if you understand what Mike's talking about there a little bit, people would argue, I think people got a little nervous over the last few months. They're like, the market's terrible. We can't buy houses. No, people... I like to discuss a little bit. I am not a financial expert. I just do have a pretty extensive financial background, mostly because of my father, who he had his PhD in academic finance, everything but his dissertation. They call it an ABD. He did get an honorary PhD towards the end of his career. But the guy was smart with finances, and he taught me a lot of that stuff. And when you really start to analyze the value and the assets and what you have, and we're going to have our expert Steve Flowers talk about this at a seminar we're doing here February 15th. If you're watching this internet or this interview after that, you missed it. We're going to have some more of those. But Steve is an expert. He's with USA, and they talk about it. And I know you'll understand this, and probably could give you some good pointers too. When somebody actually is looking at the resource they have in their biggest asset, their house, sometimes when you've got a 13, 14, 20% credit card, you don't want to keep paying that even though you're going to have to refinance at 7%, right, or 6%. Do the math, and tax deductible versus not tax deductible charges, credit card versus interest on a mortgage, and those are important things. A lot of people don't ever get spoken to about, because whatever mortgage guy or real estate agent doesn't bring that up. And are those factors that you consider and like to help people with?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely factors, because if you could basically combine high interest credit cards into a mortgage, that would ultimately help you out. Obviously, if you racked up credit cards, it would make it a little bit hard to become approved, basically, unless your income's up there. But let's look at something like this. So mortgage rate right now, I mean, we're seeing it, let's just say it's 6%. It adjusts all the time, so don't hold me to that. But we're just going to use nice round numbers, 6%, right? Would you rather buy a house now and be the only buyer that writes the offer? Or would you have rather bought the house a year ago and had it gone up against 25 other offers, which would jack the price up, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and pay 3%? Well, the answer is going to be the 6%. Because listen to my thought here. If you ask anybody that's ever owned a home, they always refinance. You buy the house at the rate that it is currently, the rate is inherently going to go down. Is it going to go down to the 3% that it was? Probably not. So those days are over. So Chinese proverb would say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today. So you got to work with what you got. And there's no reason that if you found the perfect house, you would let the interest rate hold you back from moving forward if you could afford the payment.
And does that fall along the lines also of if you bought the house for $30,000 more than its value would have been 6 months later when the market went down, you just paid an extra $40,000. When you look at the interest rate, interest 3%, 5%, 7%, that's extra money that goes to the bank. You are paying that money. If you look at the longevity of the loan over the years that you have, 30-year appreciation, and you look at the schedule, you're paying that much more in interest, okay, but would you rather pay $35,000 up front, essentially, that you've locked into your loan that you now are due because you had to bid against a bunch of people to get that rate, get that house, or have that amortized into a loan that you would refinance sooner than later anyway?
Well, the reality is that the buyers can make a smart decision now. I mean, they don't have to feel as rushed. Really nice houses in affordable price range in desirable areas will still have multiple offers. They just will. The thing right now is that we see that the market is thin on quality inventory. So if a nice home comes up and it's marketed properly and it's set out there and showings are put off and you have eyes on it before you let the first person in the door, you're going to get multiple offers. And for those sellers out there that are worried about the market not being that good to sell, if your house is nice, it'll sell. And it'll sell for a good number. And if your house is not nice, basically you got some renovations you think you need to do, and you still want to sell down the road, you need to talk to a professional that you trust early on in the process so that you can get a plan together. Because right now it is a little bit of a beauty contest out there, and the nice homes are selling the quickest.
Well, and with that in mind is a matter of everybody thinks spring is a hot time to start selling houses. Winter, not so much, I guess. Let's talk about the cycle, right? We're going to have spring coming up here in the next month or two, but let's say you catch our interview here it's going to be on YouTube and all of our other social media, but you get it in June. Talked about what June is like to buy a house, or May, or whenever, different times of the year. So people say, when is the time to plan this? Going back to school for the kids and the school district and all that stuff. And then we'll do fall a little bit too, if you don't mind.
You know, the school district is important. If you're moving school districts, you're definitely going to want to get your kid in before that change happens. I would say that buyers seem to do that less often than they used to in the past. So it's not as important to people. You know, if you have a contract on a property, a lot of times the school will let you register your kid. I don't think that's a main decision maker for people nowadays. The way the spring market works is we very much are weather dependent. If we have ice and snow and it's a frozen tundra out there, we're not Michigan, we're not Colorado, so we are not used to that kind of weather. Even though we get snow, it's just people forget so quickly.
If you got to be a cowboy, I'll put the hat on here for everybody. But
there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's the weather and all of the determinations that go into a house. Talk a little about that.
So yesterday, I mean, it was 52 degrees outside. I'm going to tell you what, a lot of people started probably thinking about making a move. Whenever it gets a little bit warm, you get that little taste of warm weather. I mean, it's 14 degrees right now, I think.
I saw 19 earlier, but probably
exactly. It's right back down. But the sun's shining, and I'm telling you what, people are thinking about it. So if we don't get a lot of snowfall, people are going to get their houses on the market earlier. And I always shoot, personally, if I'm going on the market in spring, I'm going late March, early April. You're beating the punch. And March is more rainy than April. The old April showers bring May flowers. It's not really in Missouri. It's March. March is rainy. So by April, your lawn's looking great.
Yeah. And the lawn ends up being something that we all have to contend with. But yeah, I mean, those different seasons. I mean, I think St. Louis is a great place to live because it allows us the opportunity to have all 4 seasons, really.
Sometimes in one day.
Yeah, sometimes. If you don't like the weather right now, wait 20 minutes and it'll change. But that's St. Louis. And the truth is, our winters are rather mild, considering. I mean, I know people who live in Chicago. We love our fans up there. Guys, if you're a Cubs fan, we love you guys. We love you guys. Wouldn't have all these rings without you. Ow. Sorry. I still love the Cubs fan. I'm going to Chicago this weekend for the Super Bowl. I get to watch the Super Bowl at Wrigley Field for a promotional thing we're doing up there. It's kind of neat. But it's cold up there, and they get 3 and 4 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Here, Yeah, one time you might get an 8 or 9 inch snow, and sometimes it accumulates 2 different snows for a total of 12 or 14 inches.
Yeah.
But a lot of winters, it seems like there's just almost no snow.
Yeah, like 1 inch
Yeah.
the whole winter.
Yeah, and it gets a little slick out a couple times. Other than that, my point is we get a little taste of it.
Yeah.
Good to say, hey, I got a hill over by my house where they can sled down the hill, and I just watch. Sometimes I stream them live because everybody wants to watch the kids sledding. I haven't even been on the old hill by my house, but in 20 years I've lived here. But that's cool. And then bam, we're in the spring and Cardinal baseball and all the fun that we get going on there. And then summer here can get beautiful. It's warm, a little humid. I like that. Helps me sweat a little bit, get trimmed down a little bit just by the nature of our environment. But I mean, St. Louis offers so much to so many people. What do you think some of the biggest advantages of our climate and our housing industry with regard to, houses in LA? You want to get a 1,200, 1,400, 2,200 square foot house, you're $750,000. Am I in the ballpark? I mean, I've seen some of this.
Oh, I mean, you can see
East?
some really expensive houses that are not very impressive at all, in LA, for sure. Here, I mean, we're very affordable, and that's why our market's not likely to go down. I mean, if a house is in bad shape, it will hurt the price. In the previous market, the last 2 years before this year, beginning of last year, you could sell a not nice looking house and people would still pay top dollar because they just wanted a house. Now they're being a little bit more picky, and so there is some prep work. It's not as easy as it was, but if you have the right professional helping you out, you're going to be prepared and get the job done.
Well, well spoken. This guy Mike here is an expert. Galbally. I'm gonna have to practice. I'll practice. Get it. But
it got beat up in school. Like the teachers, like you get like 8 classes. Every teacher would get it wrong.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, nobody even tries to pronounce my last name. They're like, right, which guy, whatever it is. But I'm just like, don't worry about it. Just call me Carter. And now you can call me the Cardinal Cowboy.
Exactly.
But tell me a little bit. What is the one thing that really, you would argue, sets you guys apart? There's a lot of realtors in St. Louis, obviously, but to be in the top 1%, I won't even give specifics about, but let's just say you're in the 1%, or maybe you're higher than that number. I mean, to get to that elite of a level, holy cow, what do you think you do that makes a difference?
Well, I think like most agents, I would argue that most agents care about what they do. They care about their clients. So I don't think that necessarily sets it apart because we do very much care. Ultimately, our biggest thing is our experience. So unlike everybody in the market, I've seen everything that could happen in a real estate deal. Most of them go very smoothly, but there are some ones that have some really interesting scenarios that we got to get through, and it's having a level-headed agent that helps you through the process because it's emotional for you. I get it. I've moved without kids. I've moved with kids. It's definitely harder with kids, and so I get it. And we see that it's an emotional time for you, and we take that baggage on for you so that we can make this as stress-free a process as possible.
Tell me, if you would, then, what's one of the biggest mistakes that you see that consumers, home purchasers make? I mean, there's a lot of mistakes to be made, but what's one of the biggest ones?
The biggest one is going it on your own too long. Like basically like waiting too long to bring the professional in. See, the reason why all these different online companies exist is because everybody chooses not to ask a friend and family member who they should trust for a reference to a realtor that they know. They go onto a website and put their information in, and then it spits out information, or they get called by agents, and they trust that more than they would their friends and family that could give them a good referral. That just doesn't make any sense to me, but that is the world we're in.
That is a great point, because it is true that our climate is so much internet based. My grad school paper I wrote back in 1994 was called The Internet, and I was like, this thing's going to change the world. And lucky guess, but I mean, holy cow! And it's goose chase. I'll tell everybody I got sent on the other day, trying to get a bid just to find out an average cost, because we got a guy who's doing some work on one of the properties, and hey, what should we pay this guy for the work? Get an estimate. I end up in some place, and the guy's calling me later saying, hey, because they don't want you to just give you the number, they want to talk to somebody. I get it, and I feel bad. I'm like, where I got somebody? I'm just trying to figure out what to pay the guy.
Sure.
And those are the kind of runarounds you get when you're dealing with the interwebs, if you will, I guess, right, Mike? Yeah. And so now you end up, holy cow, I don't even know who this person was. Are they highly rated? I mean, they don't publish the public data, very easily find. I guess anything can be found on the internet. But who are the best real estate agents? Everybody says they're the best. Right? I do all this, and I got these awards, and I don't know how to differentiate. You're right. You need to learn to talk to somebody that you can trust, and hopefully they refer you to a guy like yourself.
I mean, here's a smart way. Most websites have past sales for agents. I'm not a huge fan of Zillow, but it's one that a lot of people like. You can go on Realtor.com and search your zip code, and you can see the agents that sell the most in your area. And you just go down the list. Don't put your information in a fill form. Take a little time and do a little bit of the research yourself, and you're going to get a much better experience.
Or could they save a lot of time and just call you direct?
They could.
Is that something that you will allow for that, right?
I guarantee I'll give them a great experience.
Finesthomesnetwork.com. They're the first ones you should look for, I should say, right?
We are your number one preferred vendor.
And there's the information. 636-229-8583, firsthomesnetwork.com. Mike Galbally. I missed it again, didn't I?
Yeah, it's Galbally.
I wanted to say Galbally. See, here I had a buddy of mine who gave me his name, and I didn't miss it 3 times. I missed it 3 times. Hey, it's all right. I
got to be honest with you. I mean, it makes it memorable, right? If you got to think about how to spell, I'm not Smith, so you're going to remember me.
And I'll still mess it up if I try to say it again. But, yeah, people said, he messed it up. Maybe I messed it up on purpose. Who knows? But it makes it memorable. We want you to remember Mike's name, and he's actually, obviously, one of the best in the region for sure, if not the country. Obviously, I think you would rank up there among all the people in the country, knowing where we talked about some of your numbers are. That's insane. I mean, you're obviously know what you're doing. So let's see. Tell me a time when you really felt like you helped a client that was really kind of out there, and they're going, man, I don't know what to do, or this other person I always said didn't do their job, and now I'm stuck in a situation, and you had to help somebody through that.
So I don't always help people with the, we're called the Finest Homes Network, right? So you think we only sell high-end properties, but I sell all ranges of properties. We've helped past clients from selling a $20,000 home here in St. Louis. You can buy a house for $20,000. It's not very habitable, but it does exist, up to well over $1 million. And at the end of the day, the people that have houses that are in disrepair, they usually don't know where to go. And I really enjoy helping those people really understand it, because they usually go to the cash for house guy for the deal first. And the problem with that is the cash for house guy, I mean, he has a place, right? He's serving a purpose. He's helping people out, and he is doing it to make a profit. Nothing wrong with that. But there are definitely scenarios where we can get them a lot more money. And I did have this one client. She had a house in St. Anne. She had accepted an offer from a cash from house buyer for $10,000. But the thing was, she owed, I think, 17 on the property. So she was going to be in a deficit, and I don't know if she knew where she was going to get the other 7, because it didn't seem like it was possible that she had it. Well, that cash for house guy ended up backing out, because a lot of times in those situations, they don't always follow through on their word. Even though he had a great deal, he should have moved forward with it. Well, I took that house in the same condition. I put it on the market, and we got $41,000 for it. So where she was going to have to bring an additional $7,000-8,000 to closing, we got her in her pocket $10,000. And so that made me feel really good to be able to turn that around for her, and I think that really helped her out a lot.
Well, that's a great story, because you end up, like you said, there's times when they go, I just want to get this thing off my list of things that
they feel desperate.
Yeah, desperate. And they're going, what do? I just call one of the You Buy Ugly Homes or whatever, and they go, oh yeah, we'll take care of that for you, and it's $50,000 less than it should have been, or something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, so we had one up here. Well, this one, Royal Burgers, right here. So this property is in a nice neighborhood in St. Peters. So it's listed for $400,000. It does need work, and we got quite a few offers on that property. One of them was a cash for house guy, and he offered $287,000 for it. And so we're under contract for $100,000 more than what he was offering.
Gonna save some money, right, and get it sold by. It's where knowledge is key, information is king, and the information is out there if you do the research. And I tell you, I don't hardly buy anything without calling somebody I know first and saying, who should I talk to? Whether it's a car, a big purchase, I mean, it's hard these days. And ladies and gentlemen, you're talking about the most valuable asset you'll likely ever have for 98% of the population. Why wouldn't you call somebody that you know and trust and does a great job and is very well informed? Tell me, if the whole process that people go through here, what's it take for somebody says, I want to get started with you, Mike. I've got a house to sell. What should they do next?
All you got to do is pick up the phone and give me a call. And from there, we set up a time to meet. We go through the process. I make sure they're very informed. And at the end of the day, I'm not a pushy guy. If I could help you with your goals, then I want to help you. If for whatever reason you feel like we're not the right fit, and that's okay. The biggest thing is just give me a call, and I will give you all the information to make a decision if we're a right fit to work together.
Tell me, if you would, because I know this is something a lot of people deal with, and it's like, should I FSBO, right? For sale by owner.
Sure.
And are you against that entirely, or is it a little bit? It sounded like earlier you're kind of like, try that a little bit if you want to, see if you can make it happen, if it works out. But be wary that you may not even find out what you could have sold it for if you had a real estate agent involved. But that's some people are willing to take that risk.
Yeah, and so like a lot of people don't really know the true value of their property. So that's the one danger with doing for sale by owner. So everybody looks at the websites, right? The Zestimate. And I will tell you the Zestimate right now is way off because it doesn't know how to make heads or tails of the market. Market went up so fast in the last 2 years, and then now it's kind of petering out. Is it pulling down? Probably not. In most areas, it should remain pretty flat. But if you go on Zestimates are dropping. So is the Zestimate right? You know, are you going off of antiquated information? Do you trust that? And then on top of that, if you do a for sale by owner, most times buyers, they don't want to come up unrepresented, so then they bring a buyer's agent. And so then you're paying the buyer's agent, you got nobody to look out for your best interest. So at the end of the day, when a for sale by owner sells their property themselves, their goal is to net the most money, right? And so I want them to net the most money too, right? I want to get them the highest price for their house so they net the most money. And yes, they pay me for my services. But if they walk away with more money, then I know I did my job right.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It takes an expert that knows what they're doing to help you with something so valuable, so important. And I just think that's so, I'm going to call it elementary, that you should go down this path because we've done it both ways. I was trying to sell my house through a friend who had a license years ago. And then nothing got done, right? And it was just a friend, and he was going to do it for whatever. And then I got an agent in, and my house was sold in about 2 weeks. And I needed that done because I was paying on that mortgage, and I had my other house that I was ready to move into that was completed, and I was under contract for. So those are the things you have to be wary of, or in the situations that you might end up in.
And I'm glad you brought that up because everybody seems to know an agent, right? You know, an aunt, an uncle, neighbor.
Somebody has their license.
You know, somebody has a license. And quite honestly, the barrier to entry to be a realtor is not overly high.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, there are a lot of people that have real estate licenses. But the reality is that are they a full-time agent, that this is their sole career and that is what they're doing? They service buyers and sellers with the purchasing and selling of property. And that you need to do some work with somebody that's full-time, especially on the sales side. I mean, a buyer's agent could probably do it a little bit easier, but in this market, you definitely need a full-time experienced agent to help you with the sale. It's not as easy as you might think.
Well, as we finish up, then I wanted to give you one last question. That would be, what do you get the most satisfaction? Really tell it well like it is. We kind of touched that early on, but when it comes down to it, somebody's been doing this for so long, it's helped so many people. What makes you feel best about what you do?
What really makes me feel good now that we've been doing it for 14 years now is that clients that I helped purchase properties years prior, we get to go back in there, not only see what they did to the property, because a lot of times people bought properties that, you know, were dated and needed some updates, and I'm always really excited to see what people do, but I love giving them that check at the end, that profit that they made, that they didn't just throw away into a rental. You know, they actually got in their pocket, and they created wealth through real estate. Yeah,
and everybody wins in that situation, and it makes it so that you end up with a win-win-win. We like to talk about that. Stephen Covey book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you guys picked it up, I took that class back when I was at Anheuser-Busch. I just finished grad school and started there, and I said, but they got more learning they want you to have here, and they'll send you a class. And so I said, that's a great book I've heard about. And so 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It must be the only thing I truly remember out of that. Maybe there's a lot, I guess. But it needs to be a win-win-win.
Yeah.
The consumer, the purchaser, the seller, and the buyer all need to win.
Absolutely.
Or else it ends up somebody's upset, and then reputations are hurt. And it sounds like you've obviously done a great job.
The founder of our company, Gary Keller, he found it so important. It's one of our core values: win-win or no deal.
Win, win, or no deal. And who wouldn't want it to be that way? So, all right, everybody, appreciate you. We wanted to give you a little extra here. We've almost done enough for 2 shows here, but hey, Mike, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in the studio. And if you're looking for an expert, Finest Homes Network, finesthomesnetwork.com. Get a hold of Mike.
I appreciate it, Carter. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, everybody. Stay tuned. This is your little castle show. Plenty more coming. Giddy up.